Hey, so I just finished up with a interview Q&A on my Instagram page, and I wanted to come over to YouTube to provide you all with some insights on the discussion. I tried to save it to my Instagram, but guess what? Instagram, I think, just took away my video, so I'm a little sad about that. But there was a couple great questions that came up that I do want to highlight very, very quickly for you. So the first question that came up was, how do you keep your confidence when things are not going out as the way that you'd like for them to during your job search? And so one of the recommendations that I have is to think about some of the things that you've done that have been very, very positive in your life and keep those at the forefront of your mind just to keep yourself and keep your confidence going. Another question that came up was about feeling how your confidence can go down the more rejections or ghosting that you encounter. And so there's a couple things that I recommend for people to do in those type of scenarios. If that comes up specifically, then I would recommend a few things. The first thing you can do is to really be mindful of the amount of energy you're expending into your search. So I know this sounds really counterintuitive because when you have jobs, you have situations come up where you're thinking that, wow, okay, I want to be able to put all of it into it. And you do, but when you're at the point where it's starting to take away some of your confidence or taking away just your energy and making you feel really depleted, then we have to think about, okay, this is what we can potentially do. Instead of maybe give it all of our energy, come up with a list of questions that are really important to you. Come up with your top 5 questions, 6 questions, or however many questions you need, and have that as your deal breaker list. So if you are looking at an employment opportunity and they're asking, you want to know specifically salary range, or you want to know work hours, or you want to know something else, then make sure you get those questions answered either during the pre-screening process or get those questions answered at the beginning of the interview so you know how much energy you want to expend into an interview setting like that. This is a great way to help conserve your energy because what I found is that a lot of times some of my clients, when they go into interviews and they maybe share a little too much or talk too much about things that are maybe not necessarily as relevant or as they need to be for the position, they feel really attached to that outcome. And so one of the things I want you to do is not feel as attached to the outcome, and a great way to do that is by just preparing in advance. So come up with your questions that you have that you need to have answers to that will help determine either I'm going to really put a lot of effort into this or I'm not. And even if things don't work out, treat every job opportunity as a new, fresh opportunity. I know if you're applying for tons of jobs, you're just like, whatever, they all kind of blend together. But I kind of think of jobs in my perspective as individuals I may be interacting with, or business partners, or people I'm trying to help. Everybody is different. Everybody's different. Everybody has their own life. So think of your jobs like that. This job is Mary. This job is Susie. This job is somebody else. Think of your jobs that way. That will probably be a very helpful mindset shift for you just to look at things with a fresh lens. Because after you've been doing so many and you get rejections, it can kind of feel hard to do so. So, those are a couple really quick tips to help you on your journey. One of the things that we did also talk about was the ghosting aspect. And I know that can be really frustrating, but every opportunity is not the right opportunity for you. And so having that mindset of keeping those great things you've done in the past at the forefront of your mind is always very, very helpful. And then, in addition to that, conserving your energy, preparing in advance so you know what questions you really need to have answers to, so you can determine how much energy you really need to put into it. And then set proper boundaries. There's some things that you just simply, ladies, you just don't need to talk about in your interviews because you just don't. I mean, sometimes when I've noticed that people feel really depleted in their interview process or going through it, there may have been things they just shared they didn't really need to. So try to protect yourself. That's the key. As I mentioned on Instagram in the live, a lot of times what happens is there's a lot of recruiters or individuals that are the interviewers, they're going through like massive amounts of interviews and or through people, and you're not just a number, you're a very special person, even though people make you feel like you're just a number. And so when you can't control things that are out of your control, then you control what's in your control. What I mean by that specifically is to know what is important to you, know the questions that you need to have answered, know the things that you want to have in your setting as it relates to your boundaries, things that you're not going to talk about or you are going to talk about, and then also being able to just always think of yourself very highly of yourself and think of the things that make you feel more confident. Those are a couple highlights that I did on Instagram in terms of the questions I had. I wanted to see if I could help anybody on YouTube in that matter. So I want to make sure that a lot of people I know they're not able to watch it right now. So at least I give them some insight since Instagram pretty much just took away my video. I don't know what happened. Sorry about that. The other question that came up, which was a really fantastic question, was how do you not answer a question when it's crossing your boundaries? And the best way that I would recommend to do that is to deflect, 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 deflect. And the I deflect personally, it depends on how big of a boundary crossing that is actually taking place. What I typically do is if someone asks me something that I feel like is inappropriate or it may be crossing a boundary that I internally have, I will say, "Thank you so much for asking me that question. Can you tell me a little bit more about the project we're working on? Or you can tell me a little bit more about something that happened in their lives." Have them talk about something else that's not maybe a little bit more focused on them that they need to think about, because once they have to think about it in their head, they're thinking, "Oh, I gotta think about what she just asked me." And a lot of times that question that they may be wanting to ask you is gone somewhere. They're not even thinking about it. It's not even here. So that's a great way to try to deflect those situations. I do have a three-part series here on YouTube that talks about setting boundaries. So you definitely want to check that out. I think it's a really great series, just to give you something to think about as it relates to boundaries in life as a professional woman, so that you're not feeling boundaryless when you're in a work setting, because sometimes it can feel that way. So those are the main things that we talked about during the live setting. As I mentioned, when you kind of deflect some of those scenarios that come up and people see that, it actually is a great way to help with your executive communication. There is a webinar that I'm going to be hosting on April the 22nd. I'll make sure that I send you all the registration link so you can sign up for it. But it's really to help you as a professional woman be able to communicate like an executive. And so when you're doing that deflection, people actually really do notice that subtly. You may not think so, but they really do, because they're seeing that, oh, okay, when I ask Mary something, this question, or talk about this, she talks more about work. She's really focused. Let me try to make sure I stay focused around her. And so, those are really great tips and ways to help present yourself as an executive, even if you're in an interview setting, even if it's in your personal life, or even if it is, doing something else outside of work. You may be in an organization or working in a community or something like that. So it's a great way. These are great tips. These are great questions. I really appreciate you all for joining and for even watching that can help you be able to interview better. Now, I will be doing this on a more consistent basis. So let me know if you have any questions as it relates to interviewing. I'll be happy to help you there. I personally have been in a C suite, a manager, and a director role for the past 20 years of my life. And I have a lot of experience with interviewing, interviewees, and hiring great people. And so I'd like for you to be able to just learn from my experience so that I can help you on your journey. If you have any additional questions, please reach out to me at info@exciteexcellence.org. I would highly recommend that you join up and sign up for my mailing list. It's a great opportunity for you to learn some tips and tricks that I may not necessarily be sharing on my social media platforms. So sign up on the mailing list and learn as much as you can. And I will look forward to seeing you in the next live. Have a great day.